Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you all for coming down tonight. We are live from Books and Books in Coral Gables, Florida, through the generous support of the Knight Foundation. So a note to our internet audience watching at home, if you're interested in tonight's book, we can ship a copy to wherever you are in the United States free of charge. Just call the number on your screen. The book you have to pay for, but the shipping will be free. So this evening, Books and Books is very happy to welcome Mr. Martin Calderon Cohen, presenting his new book, Gender Balancing, an evolutionary model for elevating relationships from mediocre to extraordinary. And a personal friend and decades-long colleague of Mr. Cohen, please to the podium, Dr. Meryl Kozlow.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. And it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you a wonderful, wonderful friend, business consultant, relationships consultant, and an amazing person. So let me share a little bit with you how I know him and take you down memory lane. So it's the 1980s, and I'm a chiropractor in New York City. And it's the time when Marianne Williamson was there, when Guru Mai was there, when Linda Evans and Dynasty was happening. There was a lot going on back then, and there was transformation going on. And then there was this wonderful invitation I got to go to a seminar called All About Men and All About Women. And I was married at the time in my 20s, and I went, wow, this is quite the thing. You have no idea, quite the thing. Let me share. We go into this wonderful big seminar room, and there are hundreds of people. I walk in. I see Maureen Cohen in the back, who is this fabulous clothing designer. She's just put together and very quiet, very soft. And then I see Martin Cohen, and he's running around and greeting. So we have like this wildly, fully expressed gentleman, and then we have this lovely, soft woman in the back. And then Martin comes over to us, and his staff says, and his team, okay, women on this side, men on this side. So you have to get, there's like 150 men on one side, 150 women on the other side. It's after hours, so everybody's professionally dressed. There's excitement in the air. And I'm like, well, what could this man be saying? All about men, all about women. Like, what's happening? So Martin walks over to the men's side, and he says, men, and he's very masculine, and he's raising his voice. He goes, how many of you are great lovers? The next thing I know, the men are jumping, like jumping. I am. And Martin goes, you know you are. And I'm sitting in my seat going, are you kidding me? Like, don't they know they're not all great lovers? And the women are like, don't they know? And the men are going, yeah. But I'm sitting there and going, wow, I didn't know that. And then Martin goes over to the women, and he says, ladies, what's it like for you when your man wants to drive you in the car from point A to point B? Now, remember, they don't have GPS and MapQuest back in the 80s. And you see women going, oh, they never ask for directions. And then Martin says, that's right. They don't ask for directions, and you don't acknowledge them for doing the creative way of getting you from point A to point B. And the women are sitting there, and they're trying to get it. So this is back in the 80s, and he's distinguishing all about men, all about women. What does a man want from a woman, and what does a woman want from a man? Fast forward, February 2016. I'm in a seminar. Martin says, Meryl, I just wrote this really interesting book. Would you give me the honor and read the book? I said, of course. I would be thrilled. I take it home. Gender balancing. Let me explain to you why this was the greatest moment in my life. In January of this year, I was grappling with my feminine energy and my masculine energy. Unbeknownst to anybody. I mean, I was grappling. So what does grappling mean? I would put on a black blazer. I'd stand in front of the mirror and go, oh, God, you're so masculine. What happened to the girl in you? So I take the jacket off. I put the jacket on. I take it off. I try. No, it's my energy was masculine. It was like 80% masculine, 20% feminine. I'm like, oh, this is not good. So then I start noticing how I walk from the lobby in my condo to the car. So I'm walking. And then I'm looking at this other woman, and she's walking. So I'm grappling. So I read this book. Chapter 13 is my absolute favorite. Now, I'm not going to say a word because we have our distinguished guru of gender balancing. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Martin Calderon Cohen. Please welcome him. Thank you, Martin.
Should I be speaking into this microphone? Thank you, Victor. So here's how it all started. It started, I was in the ninth grade creative writing class in Brooklyn, New York. And the subject, before you could write material, was what is the most vital, important, unspoken resource on the planet. Now, remember, this was 1954, and I was 15 years old. And you saw the students come up, speak about scientific discoveries, breakthrough in medicine, putting a man on the moon. And I got in front of the room, and I said, the greatest untapped natural resource on the planet are women. That's 1954. There was silence, and then there was a lot of laughter. And my teacher, Miss Rose Port, a little teacher in the right-hand corner, was in that corner. And she said, Martin, what are you talking about, women being the greatest untapped natural resource? And I began giving her a few of my interpretations about the difference between women and men. And I really got into it with her for a few minutes. And she put her face close to mine, and she said to me, Martin, don't ever stop. And at the point that she said that to me, I actually took it in. I took it in so completely that there was something that lived inside me that I had that was a message to be gotten out in the world. But when she gave me permission, that I really took it from there. And from that point on, I began to document the differences between women and men. And from there, I began speaking to girls and women and men and boys as to what those differences were. And the differences were really rather stark. And you would ask the guys and the boys, how are things? And they would hesitate and say, good, fine, or shrug their shoulders. And you would ask the women the same question, and there would be a hesitation, and then a stream of conversations from their body to their teachers, to the parents, to the complaints that they had. And they really spoke. And the more I spoke to women, the more I spoke to men, the more I found how men spoke in a specific picture, and the women spoke from her feelings, but inside her feelings. And as I further went along, I actually found that men spoke externally and women spoke from inside me. So it was literally like I had to change channels. So when I was with women, I would turn the channel on to internal, and I would hear her. And with men, I would turn the channel on to external, and I would hear them. But before long, I was going back and forth, switching channels. But the differences were truly extraordinary, like just noticeably different. So it wasn't that we were all speaking English. It was that there was not only a difference in the communicating, but a difference in how they saw life. But it was distinct and clear. By the way, as we go along, do you know what the single biggest complaint that men have about women? Who would know what it is? No, not that they talk too much. But all of it's close. It's that they interrupt a man. the single biggest complaint. Inside of all of their complaints is that they are interrupted. And it has a lot to do with what I have discovered are the differences between women and men. See, what you should know is I've done my homework about women and men at a very high level. Work with highly conscious women, professional women, women of all levels and all ages, and many, many men. And I've actually went deep in my conversations and worked with thousands and thousands of people inside of workshops reinforcing what are these differences that's inside of a different language, and yet we feel connected to each other. What is that? So I want you to know that from the time that Miss Port told me that I should never forget that, I never have. And so I became what was called a relationship coach or relationship expert and began doing my work in the world about women and men. And the thing about women, now here's the thing about what I'm going to ask you all. To, as much as you can, let go of your attachment to how you were born as a woman, your attachment to being a woman, or our attachment to being a man, to let it go and see how best you can be with me out of being as genderless as possible. Like you are a woman, you're a man, or you're nothing. Like before it all began, and when context, or God, when life was created, or when God created the world, there was no gender. It was all genderless. So I want you to listen to me, because sometimes I'm going to say things that might annoy you as a woman, annoy you as a man, and to just let it in that I certainly am not attacking women or men, but I'm certainly a stand for you getting the power of who women are and the courageous, extraordinary distinction that men are in the world. So just be with me as detached as you can be with me. You with me? And in my case, if you interrupt me, it's allowed. If you interrupt me, it's allowed, because sometimes I'm going to say something and you're going to actually either want clarification or tremendously disagree with me. It matters. In fact, the more you disagree with me, the better. And we'll actually begin to see how I'd respond to it. So I've done my homework. I've worked with exclusively just women, just men. Sector, I've done it at the Wharton School, at the University of Florida, UConn, NYU, and many, many institutions, from down to grade school, to middle school, to high school, and the colleges. So when I speak about something, I'm not asking you to believe me, but I'm not coming here where I am not a very strong assertion with much evidence to actually speak powerfully about some differences, some of which you don't know, but to let it in, to look at it as if, wait a second, he's not just anyone just speaking about something specific that is so noticeably different about women. You with me? Because overall, my overall commitment in the world is the empowerment of women and courageous men, because men would need to be courageous to actually empower women for the almost unknown resource that women are in the world. Even to the point that women may have forgotten it. Even to the point that women don't get it. Because in the world at large, women are giving men what they think men want from women. And we have no idea what men really want from women. And the women forgot what you really want and need from a man. And when you see it, I'm going to speak at the level of source, at the level of that which is inside, which we forgot. But as I speak it, you'll re-remember it. You with me? No. I first want to just thank Meryl. Thank you for your introduction. It was a perfect segue into people getting it. I want to acknowledge my wife, Maureen. Maureen, would you just stand up for a second, please? I would not have been able to get close to where I am now in the world, in the role I have in the world, and making the difference that I've made in the world over the last 40 years at least, if it were not for my wife, Maureen. She really is the source in my relationship. And I become greater and more powerful the more I can empower Maureen as my source. It's as if she is the battery and I'm the electricity. The more my electricity could feed her battery, the more that comes back to me. Now, what do I mean by that? It may be said that men are fundamentally unbelievably generous. In our natural essence element, men love to give and give and give. The real essence of a man, we love to give. Women love to receive for the purpose of giving back to men far more than we're giving you. And it's an extraordinarily powerful soul relationship. Men generate and give and give and give, and women take it in, and when they see it's real and authentic, they will give it back to us in so many different ways, and in many ways that we can't even see or get or fully understand. If you're with me, just raise your hand. That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And once in a while, as I go through the speaking, I want you to either smile or agree with me or even say something, because if you don't, I'm liable to think I'm crazy up here and all alone. I personally consider that this conversation about the differences between who women and men are and the power of our understanding the commitment it is to empower women in the world may be one of the most highest priorities on the planet, right next to your health and well-being. That once we get women as a resource, watch what happens about hunger and starvation, about war, about conflict, when we get who women are in the world. You with me? Are you as engaged as I am? So this is my passion. This is what I'm committed to. And here is what my manifesto is, what I stand for, what I believe in, what I'm committed to. And you'll be seeing it around, but you'll leave here knowing it. And that is that we declare individually and collectively that there is global peace among all women and men. That we declare it. And inside that declaration, we're now bringing it to consciousness. Because how transformation occurs is something wakes up inside you. You see something you didn't see before that was possible. Declaration of peace among all women and men? It's just not. Now, you don't think that there is a war or conflict between women and men, but there is. It's the single greatest violence on the planet right now, the violence against women. And we are inside of a very small cocoon. There is a violence, both in this country and the world, against women. And it is unquestionably the single greatest violence in the world. Why is that violence? Well, violence is we're really frightened. We're terribly frightened about empowering a woman where we get women to speak about the future in present time in a way that in our logical minds as men makes no sense. I mean, we burned thousands and thousands of what we called witches because they were speaking about something about medicine and a natural way of living and a possibility that was a threat to men. We burned them. We burned them. We killed them because they were a threat to our survival. And that didn't happen a long time ago. A couple 100 years ago. Documented. Real. Interesting, isn't it? And we think we've come so far. We haven't. Have we gotten better? Yes. Have we caused a breakthrough where we get the vision of who women are? No. There's something called the condition of patriarchy. A condition of patriarchy is one in which we were born into, we'll call it the primitive period. And in the primitive period, women needed men to protect them, to get food, to create shelter and security. And then it evolved where we did not need them that much, but then the socioeconomic perspective was two can live cheaper than men. Two can live cheaper than men. Wow. Two can live cheaper than one. And so who was marriage made up by? Who was marriage? Who was marriage? Where was it created? Was it created by the universe? No, it was created by man. We made up this thing called marriage as if it's natural. We need to consider marriage is not natural. And marriage may not even be for everyone. What is that all about? We're talking about there's a likeness of who men and women are as human beings that is extraordinarily alike. And then there is what is different. And the difference is where the challenge is. The difference is where the breakdowns happen. The difference is our unwillingness, our inability to embrace the differences rather than get hooked or upset or create conflict about the differences. Because when you talk about two people living together, they are so different. So in the beginning, when we're together, there's the love story. Oh my God, we're so much alike. I found my soulmate. You can't believe it. This is it. And then after the romance is over, what is different about you begins to come to the surface. And what's different comes in the foreground, and the love story goes to the back. And all of a sudden, it's not quite the same. Even among great, good people. And then you see where women compromise themselves, where women gave up their dream, their aspirations, their vision about what an extraordinary relationship could really be. And they're willing to settle into it because they would think, well, this is life. This is the way it is. And I don't even know if I'm not with him, if it'll be any different with anyone else. Or they throw the towel in, give up on that person, and either develop a pattern of looking for the one, or worse, they threw the towel so in that they literally gave up. Many of them gave up on men. Because when we're bad, we get real bad. We're in agreement, speaking right now, that it's speaking into your life or that which you're aware or conscious of. Just raise your hand so I know you're with me. And if you're not raising your hand, see if you're lying. Thank you so much. So what do I want you to know? I'm going to look in here and see what I want you to know. My personal relationship to women. I was tremendously influenced and impacted by my grandmother, Cohen, who had a very strong male energy, and impacted by my mother, Lily Calderon Cohen, who had an amazing strong energy. My grandmother had a particular power. She was a matriarch of the family, an amazing, amazing woman, a chief, a captain inside the American Red Cross. Her heroine, who she dined with from time to time, was Eleanor Roosevelt. And my grandmother was a great woman, and she really had a huge impact on my life with her male energy. And my mother could turn anything into gold. Even when I was bad or naughty or out of line, my mother had an interpretation about me that began myself like, oh my God, maybe I'm not as bad as I am. Because my mother could be there with me in the most atrocious of the situations, my mother. So I actually grew up with that. And eventually, it took me a long time to find that my wife was a combination of my grandmother and my mother. And inside of that, everything began to work. So my relationship with women, where it started, the differences. And then in me asking questions of boys and men and women and girls, asking questions, I really began to understand the differences. And then when John Gray wrote Men Are From Mars and Women From Venus, I literally had not 50, maybe hundreds saying, am I the man behind John Gray? Because I was working with thousands of people when it was not a technological or computer society, all by word of mouth. Doing hundreds of people every week, both in the group dynamic and personal coaching. So I asked all the hard questions. Why do you need to get married? Why? How are you going to be with your boyfriend or your husband when it's all over? I know you said you want to come to me because you're getting married, but I'm going to ask you, how are you going to be with each other when you're no longer married? And you should, very interesting, especially about women. They don't even look at that. It's only what is great and extraordinary. And not looking, is this man a life partner who is with me through all of the stuff? And that he gets I love him unconditionally. And he demonstrates that he's committed unconditionally. But that's not what committed relationships and marriage is about, even till today. It's as thick as ever. We are in an old paradigm of what relationship is all about in regard to women and men. And I'm talking about good people. Women and men who love each other, but the love is some other place. So in my world, there's the relationship of family, critical and sacred. There's the relationship of friendship, critical and essential. There is a relationship of romance, hot, compelling, seductive, almost like a disease. I'm even unwilling to call it a relationship because it will end. No matter how much the love story is there, it will end. It won't be like that. And then from the romantic relationship, which I'm reluctant to call it a relationship, but I will, to the committed relationship, which could include commitment or marriage, and then move to what I'm pointing to as everlasting. And there's no distinctions about everlasting. Who in the among all of us has read the book, Gender Balancing? Okay, great. Is what I'm speaking consistent with the book? Can you get it? So whoever's raised their hand, just give me one adjective of what your experience is of the book without it being a compliment. Just whatever is there for you. You read the book? And what's the one adjective for you about the book? What would you call the book? Well, say in one word anyway. It was terrible. It was timely. Terrific. What was? Truthful. Honest. What was the book for you? Okay. The truthful and honesty that I'm talking about is not spoken about when you're going to hear some of the things about women and men. That's not spoken about. Because we've got to have women actually take the lead and be empowered by other women as well as men about what it is that women and men want and need and require from each other to experience being the great woman and great man that you are. Because at some point, this breaks away. We would ask the men in the room, which men have reduced the most beautiful, extraordinary women to mediocre at some point? And you see the men raise their hands. Isn't that something? As if who you are is this. Give me a break. We're not even close. How are we doing so far? Good. I want to talk to you about a variable. I want to speak to you about something that's not common. I want to speak to you about what I think the answer is, although there is no the answer. I assert that there is a woman and a man we can call them energies, elements, lives inside all of us. That energy and elements that live inside all of us is literally close to even inside of our DNA. Although in the DNA they could tell whether you're a man or a woman. But it's inside all of that. And in the process of the birthing, there's a transition that occurs male to female or female to male, and inside that. And then you were thrown into with no choice. Which women and men actually chose their sex? Who chose their sex? When you were born, you chose being a woman or man. Is there anyone? You didn't choose sex, right? And yet, once in a while I get someone who speaks from past life regressions and speaks from a spiritual perspective, from other lifetimes, like that. But given you did not choose being a woman or choose being a man, no one taught us what it is to be a woman and man. What is your name? Avi. Avi's asking a very interesting and powerful question, because in the culture as it transitioned, now gender is no longer known as we knew it before. We knew it before as earlier on, 20 years ago and prior, was I'm born a man, you're born a woman, that is our gender. Today, you have a choice as to the gender you are. You have a choice. And so it is a lot of what I'm speaking about, that there's a woman in each of us. So today, if you're born a woman and your parents are particularly open and receptive, and you actually have an experience that you as a woman is really more a man than a woman, you take on that particular gender, that particular way of being. You're either reinforced or not by your parents, and there are more and more parents that are okaying it, and all of a sudden that community and culture has expanded. But that actually reinforces what I'm speaking about, that there's a woman and man in each of us. Now, I say when it's balanced, when it's not a 50-50, 50% woman, 50% female, but you could actually get all of the woman and man within you, like 100% woman and 100% man. Now you could cause and create your gender coming from that you have it all. You're that much in sync and that much in balance. And now your relationship with people and the opposite sex takes on a whole different meaning. So we actually go beyond the condition of patriarchy, and we move into being able to understand and appreciate the opposite sex and all sex, like it's from one human being the essence of, speaking to another human being the essence of, and all of a sudden you notice you don't have any stuff on as a man. Oh, she's a woman. Look at her. I'm attracted to her. Look at that. Nice. We have things in common. Oh, interesting. I think this would be great. A different conversation begins to occur. You begin to ask questions in a way that you never did before, discovering who that person is. And if you're a single woman now, and you're going on a date with a man, you might say to him as you're listening, tell me about your relationship with your mom and dad. I'm really interested in that. You talk to me about it? Hey, would you mind if I called up your ex-wife and just talk with her about you? Would that be all right with you? I really want to find out about you. Why not? No, we're going to, as women, by the way, sometimes I speak as a woman, only because of all my training. Why shouldn't we do that before we trust and embrace and get in bed with anyone? Are you kidding me? We have to get as women the treasure we are and the resource we are, but not from a place of ego, from a place of getting who we are, so we can create a particular kind of alliance and partnership that brings out the best in us, instead of us having to continue suffering or compromising or selling out. And you'll find when you get that way as women, profoundly loving and respecting who you are, guess the kind of men you're going to start attracting. A very different kind of man. So instead of you looking for the man, you're going to be complete with men, and you're going to allow a man or men to find you. Stop looking at men. If women are in agreement with me, even though they're not living life that way, see exactly what I'm to. Thank you. Anyway, I'm talking to you about various things now that I'm going to be doing a workshop, a discourse, an exchange of ideas 1 week from tonight in Weston, Florida, that will go into depth and things I'm opening up and literally speak as a professional coach, coaching you in how to take powerful baby steps in transforming your relationship. What I want to do right now is speak a little bit about what is this thing about female and male energies that exist. What is that? What is are those energies and elements that is imbalanced, that there's a conflict within me, that I don't even know there's a conflict in me, that lives inside me, that doesn't allow me to see the greatness of women and men for who they are in totality. It's because I'm conflicted. I'm not in balance. And there's been a trend, and not for everyone. The trend has been women have developed a stronger male energy, and men have developed a stronger female energy. And there's a definitive clash, conflict that occurs. And you can't get the balance from the opposing person, from the other person. You've got to get it from within yourself. So what is this thing called the differences? Well, if we look at a cross, what puts out fire? Water. So just consider fire is a male energy. And consider water is a female energy. Consider something solid and linear is a male energy. Consider the space that's ethereal, like perhaps the light. Perhaps the space in the room is a female energy. Consider forcing something, and you have to give up your attachment to being woman and man, right? You have to don't be attached. You have to consider that there's a force and an intention in the male energy, and there's a being and a passivity in a female energy. Again, not better or worse. Consider speaking is a male energy. Consider listening is a female energy. Are you with me? Consider compassion is a female energy, and passion might be male energy. Consider being is a female energy, and doing and having is a male energy. The past and the present is a female energy that's going on all at one time. And the male energy is present in the physical linear realm here and now. So the man is more here and now. And when he's not with you, you really are not with him or her. It's not that you don't love each other, but when you're with something else, the man is with something else and not with anything else. Consider the woman, it's all going on at one time. Women, if you're right there with me, just raise your hand. Thank you. Now, if you could consider the compatibility of the female-male energies, you'll actually begin to understand why a woman would be attracted to the man, because the man basically what a woman wants and needs and requires from a man is she wants her man to be fun. Fun in a way that she's not fun. Women are too complicated to be fun. There's too many things going on at one time, even though you might be funny and have a sense of humor, it's not the same as a man. So you want your man to be fun, like childlike fun. Like, oh my God, how could you be fun with all the things that's going on with our relationship and in the world? It's impossible. The man can. As if it doesn't exist. So you want your man to be fun. You want your man to be certain and clear. You want him to be certain and clear in a way that he's being specific about what he wants and needs, what he believes you want and need, without being dictatorial, with looking to dominate, but very certain clear. I will see you later. I'm going to meet you at 8 o'clock tonight. Please be prepared. We're all black, and the rest of the night and morning are up to me. Will you trust me? If I'm saying that in a compassionate way, it's going all through all the stuff that's going on and cuts through that doesn't have to have a woman think. Because when you're thinking, we're in trouble. You even smiled on that one, right? There must be some validity to that because you're my litmus test. That was a compliment, by the way. It keeps me on my toes. So, women are driven by past, present, and future. Men are driven by here and now. And not always, but primarily. I've got to cover myself. Otherwise, I'm going to get in big trouble because I'm in a room with smart people. But believe me, I've done my homework. As much as you are specialized in what you do, this is my documenters, great people. To hint of what it is I'm up to in the world, that manifesto is very critical to me about the declaration of a global peace among women and men, among all women and men, and that we have 1 million signatures. And anyone I've asked for, would they sign on that? They've literally, no kidding, 100% would be willing to sign on that. So it brings a level of consciousness, no different than we now know that we have more than enough food to feed. And now the level that we're feeding the world right now is very high. We're within 20 years or less of ending hunger and starvation on the planet in our lifetime. And I want you to be alive for the end of it, because the world will not be the same. So why am I saying this to you? Because once we acknowledge and declare peace among women and men, and plus that my work becomes on the world agenda at the United Nations about the declaration of peace among all women and men, and you're going to begin to see where it's not existing on the planet, so we can actually focus on areas where it's not, we got a good shot. That less than 20 years, or while I'm alive still, that it happens. Okay, what do I want to say to you? There is an epidemic of mediocre relationships, and I'm committed to creating a gap between mediocre relationships in the commitment area as against you living in being inside an extraordinary relationship. And right now, if I say an epidemic, I'm not even exaggerating. It's not that more than 50% get divorced or separated, but the other 50%, there's probably 40 out of the 50% or maybe more that there's conflict, and they're settling and compromising, and a lot of emotional and physical abuse that's essential. So what did I say that we want from men? We want them to be fun, certain, and clear, and love generators, that they are pursuing and generating their love and commitment to women. And that we, lastly, that the context of where we're coming from is that we profoundly respect that woman and all women. So if you as a woman have a man who is fun, he's certain and clear, he's a lover generator, always generating and pursuing, and he profoundly respects you, could you actually see that you have it all? Yes. The question. Oh, yes, you do. No, you have it all. I promise you, I reduced all of John Gray's stuff and everything into that. I'm not going to tell you what, if you knew what men want from women, you don't want to know about what men want from women. Well, let me ask my litmus test. Do you want to know what a man really wants from you? You don't care. I got it. You don't want to be one of the people that threw the towel in, right? Or gave up on them? Here's what men want from women. They want you to be safe for me. Safe for me to be the little boy, the fool, the foolish man I am, and be a great man. So you don't criticize me, not only in your speaking, but in your listening, that I am immature or I'm stupid or foolish. So I want you to be safe for me to be who I am and who I'm not. I want you to be visionary because you could see the best for you and me and us in the future in a way that I don't see it. And I want you to be complete as the great woman that you are so you don't need a man. And that you're willing to acknowledge the men around you in your world, authentically acknowledge them. So if you offer me as a man, safe for me to be who I am and who I'm not, you're visionary, that you're telling me what's going to really work for us in big decisions, for you and me and us in the future, and that you don't need me, but you choose me, and that you acknowledge me for what I'm building in our relationship with us, I say you as a woman have it all. It would be, but you want to focus right now in me speaking into your identity on the planet for who you would need to be for men. For you to be safe, for you to be visionary, for you to be complete as a woman, and for you to acknowledge authentically men. You want to concentrate on that, and you're right. When you are imbalanced, all of it's there for you. All of it. Okay.
Thank you.